Mirror, mirror on the wall. Most of us are familiar with this famous line from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The evil queen peers into her mirror and asks the spirit within the famous question, "Who is the fairest of them all? Is this just the product of fairy tale, or is there something more to mirrors than the powers they are thought to possess?" As far back as ancient civilization, humans have believed that seeing one's reflection was a magical occurrence, and surfaces that cast reflections were thought of as mystical ports to other realms, worlds where spirits and magical beings resided. A famous example of this is of the Greek legend Narcissus, where Narcissus saw his reflection in a pool of water, and as he gazed at its reflection, he fell in love with the image and eventually drowned. This legend was so strong, it spawned the word narcissist, which is often used to describe a person's fixation with their own appearance. Another famous incident in mythology involves the hero Perseus, who, with the aid of a sword given to him by the god Hermes, and a highly polished shield given to him by the goddess Athena, watched Medusa's reflection in his shield, and was able to cut off her head without turning to stone. From legends like these, it is easy to see how mirrors would eventually be thought to possess magical powers. As time moved on, mirrors were fashioned from highly polished precious metals such as gold and silver. Occasionally, metals like brass and bronze were used. These costly objects were held in great esteem, and the belief in the magical ability of mirrors led to a practice known as catoptromancy, which involves gazing into mirrors to foretell the future. A famous example of using mirrors in this way comes from the court of Queen Elizabeth I, whose own court astrologer, Dr. John Dee, used a mirror made of black obsidian as a scrying tool to communicate with angels. Mirrors have had superstitions surrounding them from their inception in ancient history. For example, many of us are familiar with the superstition that if you break a mirror, you will have 7 years bad luck. This age-old superstition seems to evolve from the ancient Romans. Since mirrors were once very expensive and hard to come by, belief in this superstition is thought to have been born out of a need for a consequence of mishandling such a costly prize. It was the belief of the ancient Romans that it took 7 years for a soul to renew itself. Now, if by some unfortunate chance you do break a mirror, don't despair. Just take the broken pieces and bury them deep into the ground to reverse your bad luck. The Romans aren't the only ones to have superstitions and customs concerning mirrors. Cultures from all over the globe share beliefs about the powers of mirrors. In many societies, families will cover the mirrors in the house if someone dies, and in the Victorian era this was a common practice since funeral wakes were often held in the home. The purpose of this practice was to prevent the soul of the recently deceased from becoming trapped in the mirror. In other cultures, it's believed that when a loved one was murdered, died in a horrible accident, or died of a long illness, or any kind of intense suffering, all the mirrors in the home must be covered. This belief being that the spirit of the dead would linger in the home, waiting for an unsuspecting person to see their reflection in the mirror, thus allowing the spirit of the dead to possess the body of the living, and use them to resolve any important issues or to right a wrong before moving on to the afterlife. Folklore is filled with references of witches and vampires being unable to show a reflection in a mirror, the belief being that they have no souls and thus are unable to cast a reflection. Another popular superstition is if a mirror in the house falls from a wall and breaks on its own, it means someone's going to die. And actors believe that seeing their reflection in a mirror while looking over someone's shoulder is very bad luck. In some cultures, there is a belief that a baby should never be shown its own reflection in a mirror before it's a year old. Doing so could bring great harm to the child. Some even believe it's bad luck to see your face in a mirror by candlelight, and yet another superstition is that if you look in a mirror by candlelight, you may see the spirit of a loved one who has died. Finally, there's the old childhood game of playing Bloody Mary. Several versions of this pastime have sprouted up over the years, but the main premise remains the same. In the dark of night, you say the name Bloody Mary into a mirror 3 times and she will appear. So, my friends, if you're gazing into a mirror, make sure you look closely, just to be certain the image gazing back at you is truly your own. So until next time, stay spooky and let them know why they fear the dark.